we are going to start with one piece of chipboard 6x8, two pieces 1x8, and two pieces 1x6. If I could talk right, that would really help. We're going to wrap those with cardstock, so 8x10, two pieces 3x8, and two pieces 3x10. Okay. I've covered the back of each piece of chipboard with score tape. I know what I'm trying to say. This threw me off because I got clear through this today and realized that the sound was not recording. So I will apologize in advance for the train wreck that will be my voiceover. And I'm sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the backing off of the score tape and put this down using my 1-inch spacers. Okay, I'm going to set that one aside. Okay, so we're going to take the 6x1-inch piece and the 8x3-inch. We're only going to use the 1-inch spacer on the top. And we're going to put this down all the way against the bottom edge, like so. Okay, we're going to do this with every one of these pieces for the side of our box. So again, this is another one of the 6x1 chipboard pieces. The cardstock for this is 3x8. And again, we're using the 1-inch spacer at the top, lining up this bottom so it's flush, or lining up the chipboard so it's flush with the bottom of the paper. And mine was just slightly off there, but it's okay. For our other two pieces, the two 1x8s, the cardstock for those is going to be 10x3. And again, we're just using that 1-inch spacer at the top and lining this up so that it is flush at the bottom of the cardstock. We're going to do that on both of those. Okay. All right, so now we are going to deal with wrapping our side pieces first. So I'm going to set aside the, actually I'm going to go ahead and fold those around. So we're going to do the two longer pieces first. And I'm going to just fold that around the ends. And then I'm going to fold this up and over and burnish this down. Okay. So what this is going to do is it's going to wrap both sides of our chipboard, and then it's still going to leave us our tab to attach the bottom part of the box. I'm going to go ahead and put score tape along the edge of the chipboard on this side as well. And I don't need to cover the entire thing. It's up to you. If you want to, you can use glue, but when wrapping chipboard, I do prefer the score tape just to make sure it's nice and flat. So I'm going to miter this a little bit differently. I'm just going to fold it over and then miter, as opposed to cutting out the square like I typically do. It's just a little bit less cutting that you're having to do. So you'll see that then gives us our piece that's going to wrap in. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the backing up on my score tape. And I'm only pulling this part way back, and really I could have pulled the whole thing off, but I was at this point still kind of working through how I was going to do this. So I'm getting some glue against the edge of the chipboard, pushing that up and over and burnishing it down. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. And again, just with the bone folder, pushing up and then over and burnishing it down. And then I'm going to go ahead and take that off. I'm going to run again glue along the edge of the chipboard. I'm going to put it on those ends on the cardstock, and then that little bit of the chipboard that does not have any score tape on it. And I'm trying to figure out how best to do this so I don't end up covered in glue or touching my tape. So I'm just going to fold that over and burnish it down. And then that will fold over. So I'm going to fold again and burnish. And that's going to be our tab that we're going to use to help attach the bottom to our box after we get the sides assembled. So I'm going to go ahead and miter again. And then I think it occurs to me that I actually can just cut those off all the way. I don't know why I didn't think of it prior to that, but you can actually, after you fold that first tab over, you can cut off the rest that's hanging off those ends there. And I'm just mitering that ever so slightly when I push those down. Okay, so that's going to fold over. I'm just going to run the bone folder along there and kind of work the paper down over the edge of that chipboard. So there's one long side. We're going to do the other long side the same way. So I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish. And fold and burnish. Okay, and I'm going to miter. And miter. And then I'm going to just take and cut right along that fold line and just cut off those two rectangles on the end there that I don't need. This is one of those projects I probably should have done a prototype to work out the kinks, but I really thought, oh no, this won't be that bad. No, it was not bad, it just was a lot more involved than I initially thought it was going to be for the box construction. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pull that off and fold those tabs over. That one's like slightly crooked. I'm not sure what I did there, but I'm going to miter this other side just to be on the safe side, because clearly I did something. I'm not sure what. Okay, and then we're going to go up and over. And then go ahead and bring this back up for some reason. I don't remember why. Oh, because I needed to trim that off. If you mitered it right, you won't have to do that. That was just so I didn't stick it to my mat when I fixed that little corner. Okay, so then I'm going to run glue again along the edge of the chipboard, on the little bit of chipboard that doesn't have tape on it, and then on the cardstock on my tabs there. And again, just over and down, and burnish that, make sure my corners look good, because that one corner I had some issues with, and fold that around again, and that one's pretty much ready to go. And then we're going to do our two short pieces. The short pieces are going to be a little bit different, so I'm going to set those aside for right now. Okay, so short piece. I did screw one of those up off camera, so we're going to go ahead and fold and burnish just like we did on the other piece. So I'm folding on that end and the end, just making sure I get it straight. I'm going to fold and burnish, and then I'm going to fold this up and over and burnish again. And then Actually, I don't need to fold it a second time at this point. Okay, so I'm going to cut right along the edge of that chipboard, and then I'm going to miter. So that I'm taking off right next to that corner, or I'm sorry, that square right next to the chipboard. Okay, that leaves us with this longer piece. I'm going to go ahead and do my score tape along one edge. And then I'm going to come in here with the glue along the edge of the chipboard and on top. And we're going to take the backing off, and it got away from me, and I flung it clear across the desk because, you know, that's just how this tutorial went this morning. I'm telling you, I should not have been doing this. And fold that over and down in burnish. I'm going to miter that corner and that side. And then we are going to go ahead and fold this over in burnish and miter again. Okay, and open that up. And then you're just going to miter or cut off those outside, which it works better to fold that in and do it that way, and get those outside. So that's your short side. So what's going to happen is these are going to go together, and that tab's going to come around on the outside to attach those together. Okay, like so. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with the other short end piece. So fold over and burnish. Fold over and burnish again. And fold and burnish the long way. And then we're going to go ahead and miter. And miter. Open that up, cut right along the edge of that chipboard. Again, there we go. And then I'm going to get some score tape on the outside edge again. And fold this over. Not fling it across the desk this time because, you know, it's a little bit easier to work with when it's not flying around the room. And get the glue next to the edge of the chipboard. This time I'm kind of folding it a little bit differently. My other way worked as well, but that just made it a little bit easier. Then I'm going to fold that around and burnish, and then miter. Then open that up, fold in my end tab, miter again. So you're going to have the tab across the middle and then on the bottom. So now I'm going to grab my scoreboard to help me out. And I want that long tab on the bottom bent in. And we're going to put glue on this little side tab. I'm going to grab some clips before I start gluing this and realize I don't have clips over here. So I'm going to stand this up in the scoreboard, and I'm going to use that corner to help get this lined up and attached together so that it's doing a good 90-degree angle. Okay. Even then I somehow managed to like pick it up and screw it up, but so I kind of play with it for a second there. Get it fixed and clipped. And then we're going to do the same thing with the other one. If you don't want to use the scoreboard, you can just do it on the desk, like I'm going to show you here, where I put some glue on there, laid this down, on top, which I think then I'm questioning, did I just do this the wrong way? And I didn't, but you know how that goes. So I wipe glue off only to put it right back on because, it's just one of those days. The end was okay. See, I was fine. I was doing it right. Okay, so back to glue on the tab. You're going to lay that down, like just match it up edge to edge, lay it down, and then stand it up and bend it to that angle. And the glue, of course, is wet, so it will kind of pull, and then you can clip it if you don't want to do it on your scoreboard. Which honestly I ended up just putting it in the scoreboard anyway, so it really ultimately didn't matter. Just because I do prefer to do this on the scoreboard. So I'm going to get glue on my other tab. And again, set that up in the scoreboard. Get the other piece lined up the right way and into that corner as well. Pinch those together and then add the clip so it can hold it while it dries. And then come all the way around and do it one more time for the last side. Kind of pinch that closed and grab the clip and set this one aside for just a minute to dry. And then we will grab our base and we're going to go ahead and wrap this. We're going to wrap this one just like you would wrap an album cover. So we're going to fold and burnish all the way around. And then I am going to miter. Okay. And down here, we're going to do that on both sides. So that leaves us one half of our tab. And then you're going to fold that in and miter again. And mitering, and then we're just going to go ahead and wrap this like you would a normal cover piece. So I'm going to go around the edge with 1/4 inch score tape and get that down, and then just go ahead and wrap the chipboard. Okay, so I'm burnishing that down. And I'm just pulling the backing off. Okay. Pushing up against the edge of the chipboard, folding that over and down. And again, we'll get on the other side. That's the last side. Excuse me, last side. And over and down. So, we're going to flip this pretty side up and get our base. Go ahead and pull the clips off. And what we're going to do is you're going to push the base piece in. And I'm trying to decide if I want to go ahead and glue those corners together, but I really don't. So what you're going to do is just drop this down in and push it down. And what that does is that'll square up your base of your box. Okay, so I'm going to pop that back out, and I'm going to go ahead and get glue on all of those tabs. Flip that back around, pretty side up. That way the inside of your box is perfectly matted, and you don't have to try to, mat it so that no chipboard shows it's already there. Take my bone folder and just push down and ensure that it is pushed all the way in and down and so on and so forth. Glue hadn't totally dried yet, so I really don't want to burnish it from that side, so I'm going to flip it back over and burnish from the inside, pushing down, and then I can come back and just stick my glue tip underneath on those corners and get those corners. So nothing, too extreme there, but and then burnish down one more time. Okay, so that is our base. Now we have a piece, or some pieces we're going to make that are going to go inside that to make sure our lid fits without having to do a hinge or anything. So we need 2 pieces of chipboard, 1.5 by 6, and 2 pieces 1.5 by 8. We are going to have to trim these down, okay? So what we're going to end up doing is taking a 1/16 of an inch off of the end of each one of these. You do want to measure and just double check, but mine ended up being a 1/16 of an inch that needed to come off the ends. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and fold and burnish on our edges. And fold and burnish down here. And then we're going to miter. Okay. And then you're going to fold in the, hold on, I'm trying to make sure I'm doing this right, because it's going to be slightly short the way it comes in on one side. So we're going to come right along the edge of the chipboard and cut off that square on both sides so that your tab is on the other piece that's not attached yet. Okay. And we're going to do this on both short pieces. I'm going to miter this just a little bit, just so that it's not sticking up once everything's said and done. And then again, glue along the edge of the chipboard, glue on the part of the chipboard that doesn't have tape on it, and then fold over and burnish. And then that's going to go with the side that had the cardstock all the way to the bottom facing out, so that little piece where you can just barely see where the cardstock doesn't go all the way to the end is going to go against the side of the box. So I'm going to go ahead and put some glue in there. I'm going to put that so that my tabs are folding over my raw edges, and that my little sliver that's not covered at the bottom faces towards where I'm gluing. Okay, and go ahead and glue that one in. And that's going to be the first part of our little kind of rim that's going to help keep the lid on this without having to do any kind of hinges. You're going to do the second short piece the exact same way. Okay, so for the long pieces, we're going to do the same process, that we're going to measure and trim a little bit off that end, which again, it ended up being a 1/16 of an inch for me. You will want to measure yours and make sure that you're not cutting too much off because you don't want this piece to be loose. So just something to kind of keep in mind as you're doing this. You don't want those, you don't want to cut too much off when you're doing this. So I am just going to take a 1/16 of an inch off the end, actually on both pieces, because I know that's what it's going to end up being. So I've started it with the trimmer and then finishing that little bit with the craft knife. I'm going to cover the back side of this in score tape again. And trim that off. And more score tape. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go ahead and put the score tape on the other side as well, and then I think I end up deciding I really don't need the 1 inch on the back side, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off. And on this one, I am going to go ahead and go all the way to the edge into the corner because we don't actually need to wrap the end on this. So I'm going to just take and use the edge of that chipboard to trim that off and then go ahead and wrap this the rest of the way around, because we've got the tabs on those two shorter pieces that are already in the box. We don't need to wrap the ends on this because they'll be covered once they go in the box itself, where those tabs in the box. I don't know why I started going like around the edge there. Didn't mean to do that. So again, over and down, and I'm just going to go ahead and glue. Get glue in the bottom there. And lift up that tab and get underneath the tab on both sides. And there, and on the tab itself. And then go ahead and take that piece and lay that in there. And push it down. And burnish. And there's another side. We just need the one more side. We're going to do the exact same piece with this piece. So I'll go ahead and prep that and get that one in as well. Okay, so for the lid, we need two pieces that are 2 1/4 by 6, covered with score tape, and two pieces that are 2 1/4 by 8. Okay, so we are going to go ahead, and the paper for these is going to be 5 by 8 for the shorter pieces, and then 5 by 10 for the two longer pieces. So we are going to use the 1 inch and the 1.5 inch spacers. And you'll see on the one side, it's not quite the same length. This is on purpose. Okay. It is going to overlap a little bit when we wrap this around, but we don't want it to overlap a bunch. So, that's why it's kind of, a little bit off kilter. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off the score tape. I'm going to lay that down. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the next short piece. So again, cardstock for this is 5 by 8. The chipboard is 2 1/4 by 6. And we're literally just doing the same thing here again. So getting the backing off, putting down the chipboard. The two longer pieces again are 2 1/4 by 8. The cardstock for those is 5 by 10, and it's going to be the same method right here as far as putting that down. Okay, we'll get our other one. And get that one in place. Okay, so let's get the scoreboard out of the way. And again, I'm going to start with my short pieces. And we are going to go ahead and get score tape. Actually, no, I'm not going to get score tape on here yet, because we need to kind of do our folding and trimming and so on and so forth. So I'm going to fold this around the chipboard. And again, and burnish. Sorry, all those little tape backing papers are driving me crazy. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and fold and burnish and trim. I'm sorry, miter. And do it again the other way. And trying to remember if I messed this one up and had to redo it or not. I don't think so. I think I was okay on this one. So yeah, okay, so we're going to go ahead and miter. And miter again. And we're going to end up wrapping both of those long sides all the way around and leaving our tab there for the box lid, just like we did for the sides of the base. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and miter that. And rather than wrap the ends, we're going to wrap the long pieces. Like so. And it is going to overlap just a little bit, and that's fine. So I'm actually going to put the score tape directly on the cardstock as opposed to on the chipboard. And for whatever reason, I grabbed the 1 inch and was like, why am I doing with this huge huge score tape? But you know, it happens. Okay, so I'm going to get the backing off of there. Run a little bit of glue in the spot where there's no score tape. I'm going to move the big score tape because I don't know why I had that one. We're going to come over and down, maybe. And then now I've got 1/2 inch, which is better. Okay. So we're going to do that there. And this really is just going to give a nice clean finish on the inside and, you know, everywhere you're going to see. So, okay, so we've got our tabs on there. We're going to do the exact same piece with, or same thing with the second short side. Okay, long pieces. We are going to go ahead and fold this around just like we did on those other two pieces. However, we are going to end up trying to decide if I folded those end tabs in or if I didn't. Kind of thinking I didn't really need the end pieces, but I think I left them on there anyway. I guess we'll see here in a second, won't we? I literally just did this like this morning and I already forgot what I did. So we're going to fold in and miter. Excuse me. Because of course I explained all of this while I was recording, not realizing that the sound was not recording. So of course now my voice is pretty much trying to go, but that's okay. It happens. It's not the end of the world. Okay. Okay, yep, I did end up leaving those tabs on there. I really didn't need to. We could have cut those off. But I did go ahead and fold them over and glue them down. Except you'll see right here I didn't get enough glue, so it immediately pops back up, which is why I tend to do the combo of the glue and the score tape, because then I don't have to spend as much time burnishing it down because it just sticks. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take our ends, or I'm sorry, our long sides, get score tape on there and wrap both of those around. And then that is pretty much, that's it with those pieces. And then we're going to assemble the frame for the lid. So again, glue in here and along the edge of the chipboard, fold this up and over, burnish it down. Same thing on this side. Get the backing off there, get our score tape. Then up and over and burnish it down. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on the second one. Okay, so to build the frame for the lid, we're going to do the exact same thing. So we've got our shorter pieces that have the tab. We're going to go ahead and get glue on that tab and line that up in the corner of the board. Get our longer piece, line it up, form our corner, and go ahead and clip that so it will hold while it dries. And then I'm actually going to come back in with more clips because this is a longer piece, like a higher, taller piece that is. But for now, we're just going to do the one and go ahead and get all of these corners set up and clipped. So again, there's our tab and glue. And clip that one into place. And then again, one more time. Clip there. And then I'm actually going to grab some more clips and flip this over and put some on the other side as well. And then set this aside for a second to dry while we get our piece that's going to go in side of this. Okay, so I'm going to set that to the side and grab my other piece. Okay, so 6x8 chipboard, 8x10 cardstock, score tape on the back. We're going to use our 1-inch spacers. And this didn't just, okay, no it didn't. For some reason I thought this just shut off on me again. Use that to lay these down. So get the backing off of the tape and lay this down. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I am going to fold this around the chipboard. I'm going to miter out those corners, but that's as much as we're going to do. We are not going to wrap this piece. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and miter. And miter again. And then fold in and miter. And miter. Okay. So what we're going to do is grab, we're not going to fold these. I'm going to flip this right side up, pretty side up that is. And I'm going to take score tape and I'm going to go around all of my edges. And I am using the 1/2 inch. 1 inch was going to be a little bit too much, so I just went with the 1/2 inch. I could have added like one more line just for a little bit fuller coverage, but I really decided it was going to be fine the way it was because of how this is going to go together. It really wasn't going to matter. So yeah. Okay, so let's get that in there as well. Okay. Now we are going to grab our base for our lid. Take the clips off. Then we are going to grab the bottom of our box. Okay. So this is going to sit, and you'll notice at this point I'm having it's a little bit tighter of a fit, and that's simply because we don't have that bottom piece in the lid yet. Okay. So I'm getting this down on to the box where it goes. I had like one corner that was just giving me issues. That was like a little bit weird, but ultimately it goes on, and once it was on there, it was fine. I think it was just that initial fitting. So, all right, so it's sitting on there. You can see on the side, there's where that goes, and there's our little lip inside. So what we're gonna do is take that, flip it pretty side down, and we are just gonna push it down in here, and it will get down and right on top of that little stopper piece that we put in the base, and that's where it's going to sit. Okay, that's going to give us the depth for our shadow box on top. Okay, so I've got that pushed down in there. So now all I need to do is just very carefully fold one of those tabs back and start getting the backing off of the score tape that's on those ends. So I'm just pulling it up, so I've got like a little tail sticking up. And I'm going to go ahead and push that down and get it started, and then just very carefully peel that backing paper out from underneath there where that tab is and get that in where it needs to go. Okay, I'm going to turn it around and go to the opposite end and do the same thing again. So I'm just going to get that started. And then do my sides. And once this piece is in here, this lid goes off and on much, much easier because you've gotten it squared up in there so that it's not like, you're not having to, you know, fight with it to get the lid off and on. Because it pushes it out, gets everything, you know, where it needs to be, and then that lid fits on there perfectly. And there's the other side. Now I can kind of turn it up on its side so that I can, yeah, see how I popped that right off and on, no problem. So I'm going to lay that up on its side so I can get in here and just kind of burnish down where I've just attached those pieces on that inside there. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to put together my pieces and parts that are going to go on the inside here. You're of course going to mat edge to edge on the inside of that. So I just have to decide which side of this paper I want out, if I want the solid purple or if I want the other side. I'm really going to kind of determine that based on my pieces that are going inside and what background they're going to show up best against. But because that is 6x8, all you need to do is just take, with the 8x8, is take 1 inch off each side, and then that'll just drop right down in there perfectly. So I'm going to get that figured out and get my pieces and parts for the inside figured out, and I'll be back to finish off the lid. Okay, so for the lid, what I'm going to do is I've got a piece of paper that is 8¼ by 10¼ and I'm going to take my 1-inch spacer and I'm just going to lightly draw a line at 1 inch on the outside edge of my paper. And then I'm actually going to my other side just to measure to make sure that I'm doing this right. And I ended up being like spot on the width. My height actually ended up being slightly off, but I didn't realize it until it was pretty much too late to do anything about it. So it ended up being just a little funky on the top, but it's okay. So this is going to be, it ends up, I'm literally like sitting here thinking if this is going to work the way I want it to. Yeah, so then I'm going to turn and go ahead and do the same line on, see, now I'm going to fit it here and see it's perfect side to side, which is good. As far as where that line is where we're eventually going to score it. That's what we're trying to do here. Sorry. Again, should have made a prototype. Didn't want to. Okay, so I'm going to do a line now at the bottom and the top as well. Same thing, I'm just going to use my 1-inch spacer. And then I'm going to measure it top to bottom. And I see there that it's just slightly off, but I figured it wasn't going to be enough to make a difference. And then it ended up being a little bit bigger than it needed to be. So my acetate that I initially cut, I cut 6 by 8 and needed to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to end up recutting that. But I'm going to take this and I'm going to go 1/4 inch in from where I drew my lines. And I'm actually just going to do it with the paper trimmer. So I'm going to put this in here so that I am at 1¼ inch. And I need to turn it around here so that it's not upside down, because for this I don't want it to be upside down. Normally I use the trimmer upside down. I don't know, it just seems to, it works for me. I know it's weird, but I know I'm also not the only one who does that, because I've seen other people do it as well. It literally takes me a minute before I realize why it was looking funny to me. Okay, so I'm going to line this up at 1¼ I'm going to start at 1¼ from the bottom and go up until I am 1/4 inch from my line I drew at the top. Okay. So I'm just very slowly doing that and getting that up to where it needs to stop. And then I'm going to turn it and do the same thing again and essentially just do the same process all the way around. And there we go there. And one more time. And there we go. And then of course, there's always like little pieces that don't get totally cut through that I just have to trim with the knife. Just to pull that out to make our frame. Okay, so I recut my acetate so that it is 6 1/4 by 8 1/4. At least I think I recut it. Maybe that was the old piece. Maybe I haven't recut it yet. So I'm going to go ahead and score this at 1 inch all the way around. And like I start scoring this and go, oh, I should have erased my pencil marks, but that's okay. So there we go there. So we're scored at 1 inch all the way around, and then I'm going to trim out my corners just on the score lines. And this is where I'm like, should have erased my score line or my pencil lines, but that's okay because I'm going to do that here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out my corners all the way around. And then I'm going to stop and erase my stuff, so you don't need to watch that. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut out the last corner. And then I'm going to take 1/4 inch score tape, and I'm going to go around the inside of the frame right at the edge of the frame. Sorry, my head got a little bit in the way there. But in order to get this lined up right, I did need to kind of lean over, so I apologize. And I, about that point, looked over and realized my head was actually in frame, so, again, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to do that all the way around. Okay. All right, so then I'm going to just double check my measurement here before I recut my acetate. And I did end up at 6 1/4 by 8 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and recut my acetate. So, and again, you're going to want to measure yours to make sure that you get it exact for your box top. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and leave my tissue paper on the back of that for right now. And I'm just going to start by pulling back just a little tiny corner and then lay this down. Push that down and then just pull that backing off that tape around the edge like that. And then do the same thing on the other 3 sides. Just like a little bit of adhesive sticking out there that was kind of throwing me off, so Just trying to fix that. And then of course it sticks to my finger, and I swear to God, it kept reappearing from this point on. You have no idea. So we'll go ahead and get this last side. Okay. And then go ahead and pull the tissue paper off of that. We're going to burnish this down really well. And go ahead and fold and burnish our score lines all the way around. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and lay that on there and make sure it fits. And really, this is the point at which I should have adjusted my height, and I didn't. But if you just measure yours and adjust this as needed, you'll be just fine. Okay. So now I'm going to go around on those flabs, those tabs or flaps. I cannot talk today. And add score tape. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you. And do that all the way around. And I think I'm using 3/8 at this point. Okay, still taping. And taping and taping and taping and burnishing. Okay, so I'm going to line this up. I'm going to pick a side to start on, and I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off of one side only. Okay, and then just push that down and burnish that down. And then I'm going to take some just plain old rubbing alcohol and kind of do some cleanup on the inside of my acetate, because of course it attracts every piece of dust in this room, I swear. I would love for somebody to come up with some static-free acetate, but I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. I don't think anybody uses as much of it as I do, but I just think it's neat. What can I say? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the backing off the tape on all of the rest of these pieces, just so I can get this lined up and not have to worry about, you know, having to lift up a tab or something. Or maybe I'm just doing it on the ends. Sorry, I'm just doing it on those sides. Okay, so I'm going to lay that down. I'm going to start kind of in the middle. Or I should have started kind of in the middle, because I did have that side kind of just, I had a little bit of a bubble in there that I was able to smooth down. But if you start from the middle, that's not going to necessarily be as much of an issue. Okay, so there's our side there. And then we just need to do the top. I know, Gus, I will feed you in a minute. Okay, so I was thinking I could kind of just push this over and fix it, and it was making it worse, so I kind of abandoned that and just went back to the way it was, where it's kind of a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but that's okay. It will be just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the backing off of my tape. I know, Gus. I know. It's almost food time. Hold on. You can wait for 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Wipe off my acetate on the top again. And there we go. So all that I need to do at this point is just mat my sides and the bottom and whatnot and figure out what I want to do there. If I want to add anything else to the front, which at this point I really kind of decided I didn't need it. I apologize for the glare right there. That's always kind of hard. I had initially thought I was going to add the owl or the bat on here and really kind of decided that I didn't really need them. So you'll see me just kind of testing them there and deciding that ultimately that's not what I wanted. It was fine without it. And since this is meant to be a display piece, this will sit up on its end. You know, we just need to mat a couple places there and the sides, of course, and then it's done. As always, thank you for watching. Please like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell if you want to be notified every time I post a new video. I also started channel memberships, which are somewhat new to me. It just will help me with supplies and, you know, being able to bring you more tutorials and more content. I'm working on what, you know, some little perks for members. At this point, like I said, I've been kind of swamped. I haven't been able to dig too much into that yet, but there will be some perks coming. I'm not sure if it's going to be some written cut lists for the different tutorials, SVG files, you know, like kind of online classes that are for members only. Haven't quite worked that part out yet, but it is coming. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. It'll be a couple days, but I am going to do a folio that's going to, of course, fit inside here, but it's going to take me a day or two to get to that. So there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.